This is day 4 of the outhouse build. We've got almost 3 walls up. Today the goal is to get the back wall and the front wall in, and those have waited until now because the back one's going to have a window in it and the front one's going to have a door, so they're a little bit more involved. So that's what we're working on today. So the first thing I have to do on this back wall here is I have to trim up this bottom pallet a little bit because the boards are kind of protruding up, and they're not going to let the pallet I want to use for the top of the wall where the window's going to go sit flat. Mind you, the pallet's not that square anyway, so you kind of got to make do with what you got. I end up putting a little piece of wood in between these two pallets to get it to lay a little bit more level. And you just kind of got to do what you got to do with these things to make them fit how you want them to fit. It's like putting together a puzzle, and except for it's a puzzle that you have to modify the pieces to sometimes. So here I'm cutting some 2x4s to put in the end of the pallet. This is going to help me join up the one of the corners here and get everything in line with each other. And it's going to make it a little bit more sturdy. So on this other corner, the end of the pallet that was up there already was open because we had to trim off some of it. So I had to join it together a little bit differently. Had to cut some little pieces of 2x4 and run them across those little middle braces so we could connect up the corner here. So here we are over to the other corner, and you notice there's a little bit of a gap underneath the 2x that I'm using to connect these together. And that's because the pallet on the right hand side is the boards are just kind of warped and twisted on it, so I'm using some other pieces of pallets to put under the 2x4s so that it'll pull up tight and screw together without bending around too much. So that's what's going on here. And I apologize for the shaky camera. I realized that it was doing it at some point here, and I moved the camera off, so hopefully it'll be a little bit better view for you. Now we're going to start cutting the hole out for the window to go into, and I kind of am doing this whole thing out of my head. I don't really have a plan for it, kind of planning as I go. So you'll probably see here I'm going to make some cuts, and then I'm going to cut off a little bit more and finally get it to be where I want it to be. So that's just kind of the way I work and build things. Some people probably take a lot more time to plan, but the way I see it, if you're building with something like a pallet anyway, you're probably going to just be improvising most of the time anyhow. Now I'm just going to see if the window fits in the hole that I've made for it, and make a little adjustments here and there. If you are framing up a window, it's a little bit better to use nails for that, because you can knock the boards over a little bit easier and make tiny adjustments than you can if you got screws in it, which is what I was doing here with nails and getting her all to fit in. And I'm not actually going to install the window just yet because I want to get finished with most of my hammering and stuff. And we still got to put the roof and things on. So, and now we're moving over to the the front of the outhouse, and I happen to have a pallet here that had two boards up the middle there, and worked out pretty well when I just cut it right in half to help me make this little short wall on the front, since I got to have an opening for the door. So that worked out pretty well. Sometimes you get lucky with that stuff, other times you got to do a lot more work, but I was glad that it was one of those lucky moments this time. So you see on this part, I'm trimming off some of the end of these pallet boards again, and this actually was a pretty aggravating little part of this project because I just couldn't get my saw in there at a very good angle. It took forever to get cut through them. I tried using my circular saw, but it just wasn't a good spot for that. And the one down at the bottom was the worst, because couldn't get my saw in there at a very good angle. And you certainly can't get the circular saw in when it's that close to the floor. So, at least to cut through the whole thing. Sometimes you just gotta piecemeal it and cut part off and knock it off, and then get a little bit more and knock that chunk off, and then a little bit more, and make room for your saw to get down through there. So now I'm getting ready to start putting this small wall up here, and uh, you notice I'm using my level, trying to get it as level as I can. Um, this whole build, I've been trying as much as I can to have everything, I guess the correct term would be plumb when we're talking up and down. But I've been trying to get everything plumb with the walls, and it's um, when you're working with these materials, it's just you do the best you can and get it as close as you can, but um, it's not always going to be perfect. So you just kind of do the best you can with what you got. And I'm going to put the top part of the wall on, and like I said, this pallet cut just right uh, for me to be able to do this wall pretty nicely. I was able to leave the little pieces sticking out and have them fit right into the adjoining pallets there, and that I think is going to help make it a little bit sturdier whenever everything comes together. And here I am on the inside, just screwing everything together at the corner here. So now we're getting to frame out the door, and we have to use 2x4s for this. And I've been using some 2x4s that I've had laying around at my house for a while, and some of them are really crooked. And I tried using some of them here, and a couple of them worked, but I just kind of gave up on getting this finished out today. So I actually finished doing this part on another day, because if you're trying to frame out a door and you've got a really crooked 2x4, it's just really hard to make it straight, and you want it to be straight because if you've got a door opening and closing, you want it to close up as it should and not have gaps or maybe not close all the way. So that's what I'm working on here, trying to get it squared up just as good as I can, with the materials that I've got to work with. And here we are at the end of day 4. There's the back with the window framed out and the front with the door almost done being framed out. And I will get the rest of that framed out on another day.